guys, and welcome to Beyond the Roll. My name is Brian, and I act as DM for our Power of Three campaign that will be coming out soon. And you might have heard my voice if you watched any of our other videos. But a lot of people have seen some of the maps that we've been making, especially in our Facebook group, and they've been asking how I did it. So I thought, let's just pull up Inkarnate and show you guys exactly how I do it. Now, this is just going to be a very simple battle map that you can easily put into Roll20 or any other virtual tabletop that you happen to be using. For this, when you start up a new map, this is what you see, and I'm going to click on Fantasy Battle Maps 2.0. That is my preferred method for doing it. They show you some little scenes of stuff that you can make with it, and I actually prefer this one for making battle maps. You can use whichever one you like, but for the instance of this video, this is what I'm going to be using. So I'm going to hit Choose Style. And for this, oh, you know what? I'm just going to make a square map. It doesn't really matter. I like to use portrait a lot of the time, which would make it shorter across left to right and taller top to bottom, and then you also have landscape, things like that. I'm going to just use square, and this is going to be 40 by 40 tiles. It's a fairly large map. So let's just hit create map right after. But see, you can go 1K, 2K, 4K. I just like to use the high 2K. For the most part, I don't need anything bigger than 2,000 pixels across, and even that is kind of big. So let's just go with create map. And what you have when you start is this. That is specifically nothing, just so you're aware. Don't even worry about what any of this is. The first thing I want to do is grab this shovel or mask tool, as they call it. Now, this is where I can draw in land masses. And I'm going to click again so that this window comes out. And I'm going to make this as big as possible. Now, if you notice across the top here, see I have feature size 8. What that means is, as I draw, you see those edges that it did? Those are automatic. Let me undo that for a second. And if I make this bigger, see how those edges are larger? Yeah. And then you can have it go smooth and all that kind of thing. I'm just going to put it back to the standard 8. Because for this, what I'm going to do is just, let's say there's a river nearby where the group is going. And I'm just going to draw a line right down here. And this is creating my land. So now what I want to do is fill in the rest of the land area. Just like that. All right, so now I know that doesn't really look like land yet, but let's say I wanted to make a little area that was a cutout here. I can click on subtract, which is here. I was on add before, now I click subtract, and just have it kind of cut in a little bit, make a little, like a jetty on the side of the river there. And maybe one more. Maybe the river even kind of winds out into a little tiny bog-like area or something right here. Ta-da, done. So now that we have our landmass built, what I want to do is make our water look like water, because, you know, that's looking kind of brackish and nasty right now, and I don't really want to go in that water, do you? So let me click on the brush tool up here, and I'm going to hit open catalog, and over in here we have all different kinds of water. I'm just going to choose this one right here. It just looks like a pretty decent, simple water for the area that we want. And watch this. I can paint right on there, because I'm on the background layer, which is our water layer. It actually sits underneath the land, and I can draw that water right in and not have to worry about being too close to the edges. It just paints it right in. We'll do a little bit of shading and things like that later in the touch-up section, but for now, okay, we have some water. Super easy. The next thing that I'd like to do is kind of draw a little bit of a road. So let me open that catalog again, and I can go through, and these are all the different textures that I can use. And for this, well, we don't really want it to be like a fully paved road. We want to maybe think we're out in the woods somewhere, and it used to be a road that's fallen into disuse. So I'm going to click that one, which is mossy tiles, and I might just make it a little bit bigger. And I'm going to actually add some softness. See how that's at 1? 0 means it's a hard edge. Let me show you what that does with a hard edge. See, it makes a very hard edge, whereas if I go full softness, it's very soft edge. To me, somewhere in the middle is what I really want for this. So let me just get rid of those two. And I'm just going to click about 0.46, something like that. What I'm going to do is just draw a nice little road from the bottom to the top that the group would be following as they go up this path. And I'm just kind of drawing a meandering little path, something like that. Maybe it needs to be a little bit bigger. You know, let's just vary the width a little bit, something like this. and just adding little pieces here and there. We're making it a little bit more jagged and rough. More on that later. But we have our basic map. Okay, there's our land, there's our road, no big deal. Let's go to the stamp tool now and start adding in some other interesting features here. For one, I want to add a little bit of edge to this. I want to have like some shoreline, maybe some cliffs or some big rocks. So let me scroll down until we find some of that. Stone wall rubble, big rocks, boulders. Here we go. Let's just grab a big boulder and drop it right there on the map. Okay, that looks pretty good there. And what's really cool is I have this randomized rotation on, and because this brush has more than one, or this stamp, I should say, has more than one option, as I keep clicking, it chooses a different one for me each time. Now, eventually, it does hit the same one again. So you know what you do? Make it a little bit bigger. Now it doesn't look like the same thing at all. You can also flip it like that or like that, and we get a whole different look to that rock. See how it just changed it completely. Now those are the rocks along the water line. Let's choose something else here. What else can we add in? This is pretty much the way I do it too. It's very organic. It's how do I want this to be? What would I like to have in here rather than going in with a specific prescribed idea? Because I just feel like if you go in with a very specific idea, it might be difficult to recreate exactly what you had in mind, but there's nothing wrong with having an idea of what you want. You know what? Let's draw some trees. I like having trees. Trees are a good thing. I'm going to go with summer trees right here. And for that, this is a fairly large area, but not super huge. Like I'm thinking that path is probably about 10 feet across. That road is like 10 feet. So if I just start drawing in some trees, notice it's doing the randomized thing again for me. Now, also, there are other things up here. I can set the density of how fast it'll do things and how far apart it will place some of these. So I can literally just click and drag and it starts to place trees for me. That's all I'm doing, just clicking and dragging. Now, if I take that area back down, it'll go closer together, something like that. And there we go. So now we have a thick forest on that side, and then it goes a little bit, less forest over here. But let's break this up. Let's do how about some ferns? We'll make the brush size a bit smaller, and we'll drop some ferns along the edge of the water here, and maybe even a couple underneath. Now, if you notice, see the ferns look like they're bigger than the trees now. So let me select one of those ferns, just like that, and I'm going to hit the layers here, and I'm going to go down until it goes underneath those trees, just like that. And same thing with the rocks. If you wanted the rock to be on top of the fern, you could do that easily. But see, this tree was placed on top of the rocks. That's why I put the things on the ground first, generally, and then I start placing everything else in. And I'm just going to put a couple more ferns in. Now it kept that preference of being underneath. See that? So everything I place now is all underneath what I had before. Now let's just say maybe there was a building here at one time. Yeah, let's go with that. So stone wall rubble. We'll do this. Now for this, see how many different things? There's 11 different brushes here. If I just kind of grab this and go like that, we have what looks like a wall. I don't really like the way that came out so much, so let me get rid of that, and I'm going to break the density down a bit so that it doesn't put out quite as many. It's still doing it. Okay, so let's say I want to put some other structures here. I want to do something like maybe there's a broken wall. Yeah, let's go with this. Broken stone walls. Let's drop that guy in there. Let me see it come up. Oh, look at that. That's really cool. And I'm just going to drop that stone wall just like that. And you know what? I think I'd like it to be rotated a bit. Now, by adding elements like this onto your map, what you're doing is you're creating strategic points for your NPCs as well as for the players to be able to use to have places to hide behind, to have things that they can use to their advantage and things that might be a disadvantage. So I'm just going to make a couple more of these walls. Notice it's got 8 different types, so it's randomizing that as I click. And I can just go through these and choose different ones. Maybe, oh yeah, let's do this. Let me drop one off in the woods back here. That piece just fell off somewhere. And then let me go over here. We got another little chunk up this way. Okay. Now in Roll20, you can use the dynamic lighting tools to make these things where they can't see behind them. If it's at night, you can have creatures hiding behind them, that sort of thing. Very, very cool stuff. Let's see what else we can do. How about maybe a downed tree? You know, everybody likes a good downed tree, a fallen tree. Let's see here. There's a few of them here. Here's a good one. Let's rotate that. So you can rotate it before you place it or after you place it, whichever you prefer. And you know what? I'm just going to drop it right across the road. That way there's like a blockade happening where maybe your bandits have ambushed the party as they're coming through and they see this tree and now they know something's up. So they weren't the smartest bandits in the world, but you know, hey, this is what bandits do. Now I'm going to change this. See how odd that looks, that shadow? It's right now set to object. So I'm actually going to set it to layer and see what that looks like. That looks a lot more realistic to me, but if not, I can always just do none and there's no shadow on that object now. And it looks like it fits in just a touch better. But let me put it back to the layer. Yeah, I think I like layer a little bit better. Generally speaking, an object that leaves a shadow would be like a very tall wall and things like that. Let me show you. Like this wall here, let's say that's a little taller. If I make it on the object, see how now it's casting a shadow. If you wanted to cast a shadow onto something, that's kind of an important setting, and I can do it with like the trees. They're set to object right now, so they are already doing it. If I go to layer, see how different that looks? But when I go to object, now it's casting light. Well, it's not now it's casting a shadow that covers other things. Let's go back to the stamps. Let's see. What else can we add to this? Let's go. Oh, just for the heck of it, let's put a turtle in the water, just because it's fun. And if you don't think it's fun, then you need to appreciate turtles more. And let's see. What else can we do? Maybe a split log over here somewhere. That's way too big. Let me make that a lot smaller, and then just like drop that right here. I don't know if I like it on top of the stone like that. Let me move it out of the way, rotate it a bit more so it looks like it kind of just fell there or was placed there. Maybe somebody used it as a bench at one time. Let's put it over here then. There we go. That used to be like a sitting spot or a fishing spot to look at turtles maybe. And let's open that catalog again. This is how I get inspired on what to put in. I just kind of click through and I look at things and I go, okay, what can I drop in here? You know, what makes sense? What would be cool? You know what? If this is a ruined building, maybe there was a ladder at one time. Let's put a ladder back here that kind of goes up that wall. Now you notice that ladder is all the way on top, right? So what I want to do is go to the layers and drop it down so that, there we go, there's a ladder that fell down. Now if I go up one layer from there, it looks like it goes up to the top of that wall. I think I kind of like it being on the ground with the rubble sort of on top of it, like it toppled over. And this is part of what I like to do is I'm kind of writing a little story as this goes on. So that way, as the players get there, I already kind of have an idea of how I want things to go and what I want to happen. Let's take some other plants and start dropping them around in the water area. Um, yeah, these. This one looks good. We'll make that smaller, a lot smaller. And let me just drop that like along the edges of the water line here. Some of this is window dressing. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with window dressing. If you can impress your players with the visuals, it may inspire them to do more roleplay, to be more involved in the campaign itself. I find that when I show them these really cool graphics that we spent some time working on, that we put some effort forth to create a world for them to play in, the players really appreciate it, and it makes them want to try that much harder. And I just really like that. I think it's great. I'm going to drop one of these guys. Let's make it a little bigger. Oh yeah, just put that like right on the edges of the water, just like that. So this is a very fertile little stream. There's lots going on. Let's see, what else can we do? Oh, let's put a broken campfire. Yeah, somebody built a campfire back here at one time, and it's been destroyed now. It's all broken up, and I'm making it smaller because it was just way too big. So let's say that this was a campsite right here. And oh, if we want to be really interesting, we can put a tattered tent in there. Make that a little bit bigger though. There we go. This is an abandoned campsite. So first it was a building, and that building fell down, and then someone came along and built a campsite, and now even their campsite is no good. So you can see how the story can unfold, no matter how crazy it might sound at the time. Now I'm just dropping another log here. This is where they sat, whoever had this little campsite. That log to me just looks so totally out of place. It doesn't look like it fits at all. So let me just drop that down to the layer amount, and I'm actually going to reduce the opacity of it, which sounds really weird, but sometimes when you see, as I reduce the opacity, it sort of blends in just that little bit better and looks more natural in the environment. Actually, now that I'm looking at that, let me do it to this tree too, because that's just way too much. Just that little bit. Yeah, something like that. There we go. All right. And let me go back into our catalog. And there is a certain point that you have to say, okay, that's enough. Just walk away. Walk away. But I don't know that I'm there yet. I think I want to add something. What can I add? Um, Looking for broken pottery. Here we go. Broken red pots, broken blue pots. Let's break a blue pot and put it. Oh, that's a huge pot. Nobody needs a pot that big. And I'll just put it like there next to the tent. Just a little extra flavor. And oh, let's see, what else can we add here? I mean, we can always add more rocks and things like that. Cliffs. This is what I was actually looking for earlier. I wanted to add just a little bit of an edge here. So watch, as I drop that in, I'm going to bring that layer up. See, it also put it as lowered opacity. So let me bring that back up. And what I can do now is drag that around and see if that works better. Nope, I think it's actually better the other way around. Put that in like that. Now I can go back to my mask tool and subtract and take away just the little edge here. Let me see if I can zoom in and show you what I'm doing. I'm going to do another one in a second, but I'll just drag this over and just show you that little bit. Oh, see, there's a little tiny edge here that doesn't look quite right now. So I can just grab that with a small brush. This is where the fine detailing comes into play. But it's the little details that will make or break your map, in my opinion. Everybody has their ideas. And I'm just going to erase back a little bit of that greenery. And now we have that little tiny cliff. Now let me add another one. Here, let's go down here. Right. Oh, because I did that thing earlier. You know what? Let's just remove some stuff. There we go. So I just click on something and delete it. But let's do that. Grab this guy again. And then we have this cliff that has that kind of 90-degree shape. And I'm going to just drop it on first, and then I'm going to make some adjustments to it. But it's actually backwards. It doesn't really work for this at all. Yeah, see, that's the wrong way. See, that's leading up. I need something leading down. So let's see, is there another one? Nope, not that one. Not that one. Okay, let's drop this guy on. Yeah, and I'll just use that. I can always transmogrify it a little bit. That's right. I said transmogrify. It's a word now. And I'm just going to drop that onto that map like there-ish. Yeah. And now I'm going to go back to my mask tool and start subtracting away the bits that shouldn't be showing, like that. And we have this lovely little promontory sticking out that looks like it's got a little bit of elevation to it. Okay. And that's exactly what that does. Now let me just fit this back to the screen. And you can see it just adds a tiny bit of elevation change, gives it just a little bit of something to look at as you're doing it. Now, a lot of this is starting to look kind of harsh to me, but before I get to that, hold on. We need more plants. You can never have too many plants. So let's do some forest floor plants. Try saying that 3 times fast. And I'm going to drop some plants along the road here. And they're just growing up all over the place. Mother Nature is overtaking this area. Whoever was living here has given it up, and it is now hers. So some of those need to go underneath the trees because they're just not bigger than the trees. And we'll drop that down too, like that. This one too. And the rest of them, maybe that'll be under the tent. It's growing inside the tent, because why not, right? Oh, see that rock? Watch. That rock needs to be below the plant now, so I need to adjust that. So that, there we go. Now the plant grows over the rock. See, makes sense. The plant is under the tent, but it's over the rock, because, that's just how plants grow. But now we have the basic outline of our battle map, but it's not really tuned for battle yet. It's not really, and you know what? This is bothering me. That just bugs me. I need to move it a little bit. It's supposed to be an impassable piece of terrain. It shouldn't be that easy to go around it. So now you have to crawl over it to get past it. Now it's an actual ambush site. And it's looking a little bit like I need to darken that a touch. There we go. Just brought up the opacity a little bit more, make it a little more less transparent. And that is a huge turtle. I just realized that. He's just ginormous. Let's just make him a little tiny turtle. And he should be slightly transparent because he's underwater more or less. So yeah, there we go. See, you can just see him under the surface of the water. That works perfect. Okay, now the blending. This is the aspect of it that I think really makes a map go from okay to cool to something that you can be proud of, that is just a really, really cool map. So for this, we have grass everywhere, but what I want to do is grab a different texture of grass. And I'm going to lower my opacity down to like 0.26 and go in with a little bit smaller brush. And I'm just going to paint around the edges of our road here. Yes, I'm painting on the road and onto the edges. See what's happening though? It's kind of like blending it in so that road now looks weathered. And I'll just go around the edge of that road the whole way. Some of this, think of it like what you do in Photoshop, where you paint things in and whatnot. It is a similar concept, and that's probably why I took to it so easily. All those years of professional photography are paying off in my map making skills. And I'm just going to go across that whole edge here. But now you see where that road that we made all uneven and jagged looking before is paying off. It's now looking worn and traveled. Conversely, you could make it look brand new if you wanted to by having a sharper edge and maybe lining it with a stone or a cobblestone or something. You can change it however you like. And maybe little bits of it throughout are just a little bit worn down more and faded. And I'm going to drop some of that texture just in random spots along the map too, to break up that green. Now, the area around the tent there, that I feel like, that needs to be more of a lighter color, more sand color, more dirt, because, there was a fire there. There was habitation of some type. That would take the grass away to some extent. And I'm working at a low opacity and just clicking and dragging and clicking and dragging. And look at that. You've made a lot of changes. Consider saving your work. Let's actually save this. So I'm going to hit save from the file menu, and let's name it. I'm going to call it Forest Map. And just hit OK. There, now it saves it. And it's important to do that because if you click away from this window, you lose everything that you did, because it doesn't just auto save for you that way. So that's one downside that I found. But if you remember to save often, it's not really a big deal. And there we go. It's saved at 100%. And I can continue drawing in my dirt. I'm just dirtying things up here. And that whole area there just looks like it needs to have that. And let's make my brush a lot smaller, and that way I can add a little dirt to some of these cobbles here and there. Just add a touch of red in here. Think back to the joy of painting, just a happy little red rock. It's your world. You can put red rocks wherever you like. And then I'm going to grab Oh, let's grab a different texture. These are bushes. I don't necessarily use it as bushes, but I will use it as a slightly darker undergrowth type of area for there. See, just like that. And it just darkens that up a little bit, gives me a little bit more texture to the area. Maybe it's a little darker next to the wall there, a little darker over here. Yeah, just around there like that. And some moss. Who doesn't like some good moss? You know, moss is always good to have. So let's do that. And I'm going to bring the opacity right up so that I can really draw some moss. And I'm going to draw moss right around these walls. Now, because I did the walls the way they are, they're stamps, I can't actually make moss on top of the walls, which that would be just really cool to be able to do, but you can't. So I'm going to do this instead. Just kind of paint some moss on the cobbles here and along the edge here maybe. Just really breaking up that texture slightly to create the sense that it's older, it's been here a while, it's disused, that sort of thing. Now, back to the water for a second. Water gets darker as it gets deeper. So let me go to my water selections here, and I'm going to choose a dark, deep blue for the water, and I'm going to turn my opacity way down, and with a large brush set to full on softness, we're on foreground whenever we're over here. The water is actually still our background. There we go. See, it's starting to darken slightly. There we go. And I can paint that in. I actually think I do want a little bit more opacity, just like that, and just kind of tap it and blend it in. Right at the edge here will be the darkest points, and it gets a little lighter as the water is shallower towards the edge. And this is a nice deep little pool here where our turtle is swimming in. There we go. Make that nice and dark for him right there. Not really liking the way that came out, so let me Control Z, Control Z. I'll just undo out of the way that came. I don't like that at all. And that's the beauty of using this system. Nothing is permanent. You can undo all of your mistakes. So you really can't make mistakes using this software. It's just, I'm impressed, really blown away. We tried it out for like a day, and I said, you know what? I'm buying this. I'm paying for it. Let me choose a different water. I think maybe that's the issue. It's just too dark. That's not working for me. I'm going to go with a much larger brush and a little bit lower opacity, and I'm just going to draw in the edge. Yeah, that's better. So I'm just drawing the edge like that. Give this a little bit more. Give that a touch more. That corner is just a little bit deeper, and that's okay. And it doesn't really matter how close you get. You're creating this world. You can decide. This little thing here is just a nice little tide pool. Not really a tide pool because it's a river, not an ocean, but you know, you get the idea. And I'm just going to darken that edge a bit more. And there we go. Our water is now done. Now, let's see, what else can we do here? Is there anything else we want to do? Maybe I'm going to take a little bit of sand, and I like this texture of sand, just has a nice texture to it. And I'm going to use a fairly large brush with a pretty low opacity, and maybe the very edge of the water line needs to be more sandy. Let's do that. Yeah, like right in here. We're just going to make a little bit of a sandy edge, just like that. So it has like almost a touch of a beach. Let me switch to foreground so that I'm actually doing it on the land. I'm going to reduce that opacity back down. See that? Just a little bit of sand on the edge there. And I'm going to show you what I did on that other spot in just a second too. But I want to make this look like a little bit of sand. It makes the stone cliff here kind of blend in like it started overgrowing. But if I go back to my background, see this little area here? Let me zoom in a touch. I can make like a little beach by just drawing on the foreground area and make like a little sandy area here so you can dip your toes in the water. And again, I don't have to worry about going over onto the land because this is on a different portion of the layer. It's on the foreground. But I can go to it's on the background. I can go to the foreground as well and paint in on that and have the sandy approach, like that. All right. Now, how would you use this map? Well, easy. I mean, you can use it any way you want. You can drop this into Roll20, you can print it out, you can do whatever you need to do. I don't have grid lines on here. You can actually turn the grid lines on, no problem. I do that in Roll20, that's why I don't bother with it here. But if I know that my path or my road is about, 8 to 10 feet wide, that's going to be like 2 squares. So when I lay it out in Roll20, I just stretch it so that it fits over those 2 squares, and this gives you a nice little battle map for an ambush as your party was walking through the forest or something like that. Just a nice quick little map. The whole video took 32 minutes to record, and I went back and did a couple things over because I messed up my words, but you see how long it takes, and then once you're done fully, you want to hit save, and it'll save it out. This is saving to the Inkarnate area itself. If you want this as a downloadable file, I'm going to show you that in just a second. And we're just about done. It's a fairly large map, 40 squares. Hit that again and then export as image. And when you do that, see, here's the option 2000 by 48 by 2048. That is 2K resolution. You can do HD. It takes a long time, and I find 2048 pixels is plenty for almost every use that I could come up with for this map. And then save image, and you save it wherever you want to. And you can hit continue editing after you've saved your map, and you're good to go. Now that map does stay in your inventory on Inkarnate, so you can edit it, you can change it, you can update it, you can add to it, you can subtract from it, whatever you want to do. This was just a really basic primer on how to make a very simple battle map in the forest. And thanks for watching, guys, and we hope to see you again in the future.